Hey guys, this is a Sound Off Extra review for the latest episode of The Walking Dead. Yes, I do still follow The Walking Dead. I know a lot of people used to follow The Walking Dead and have jumped off the wagon a long time ago, and the show has fallen off from what it used to be. But I do still follow week to week, and this was a big episode here in the middle of season 9 because it was promoted as the final episode of the Rick Grimes character. And if you are a Walking Dead fan, you know that Rick Grimes has been the main character of this television show now for the past 9 seasons. Andrew Lincoln wanted out, and so they had to come up with a way to write him out of the show. This was to be his final episode, and having just ended a few minutes ago, it kind of has blown things up a little bit here. Because, and by the way, in case you couldn't figure it out, this review obviously includes spoilers. So if you do not want to know what happened on this episode of The Walking Dead, I don't know why you're listening to this, but definitely click off. But what they did here at the end of this episode was, kind of swerved us all, everybody who thought he was being killed off. In fact, Rick was not killed off in this episode. His character, as far as we know, is still alive. That's A. And B, they are doing a time jump based on the preview for the remaining 3 episodes in this season. This was not the season finale. There's still 3 more episodes to come, but these next 3, based on the very end of the show and the previews they showed, has a pretty significant time jump. I don't know exactly how long it is, but it's in a period of years. So I wanna say we're skipping ahead maybe a good 3 years, 3 to 5 years maybe, and I can tell you that having watched The Walking Dead for a long time now, this is something that was sorely needed. And I think this could breathe some new life into this show at a time when the ratings, I think, have receded back down to season 1 levels. The ratings have really gone down for this show. Overall interest has waned. And frankly, I'm a fan of Fear the Walking Dead, which is the spin off series. And I actually think that right now, Fear the Walking Dead is better than The Walking Dead. But this time jump that they're previewing for the future episodes is something that has me pretty excited. Again, in this show, because things just seem to come to a standstill. You know, the story that they were telling for the last season and a half, it just, for me anyway, it just grew very dull. There just didn't seem to be a whole lot of forward advancement, nothing to really get excited about. They've killed off a whole bunch of major characters, and in some cases, killed off characters that frankly didn't have any business being killed off. I mean, Carl used to annoy the shit out of me, but there was still a lot of story left to tell, I think, with Carl. Here's somebody who was a kid, literally a child when the series began, and they spent all these different seasons of The Walking Dead. You watched him grow and get older, and sort of it looked like Rick would be killed off at some point and would sort of leave things to Carl. But then they killed off Carl, so I didn't know what the hell they were doing. And I will tell you that I do not read the comics. I know a lot of you who do watch the show, you've read the comics. I've never read the Walking Dead comics. I just figured, why read them? Because they're just going to spoil things that are coming. I'll just watch the TV show and let it come to me and be a surprise. So I am not familiar with the comics. Let me just get that out of the way first. I know that what they showed at the end of the episode this week, some of the new characters coming, apparently that ties in with stories from the comics, and I know nothing of that, so I can't speak to that. As far as the episode itself, I'm jumping around here because there's so many different things to talk about, including a huge announcement that Scott Gimple, who I think now is the showrunner, made on Talking Dead after The Walking Dead went off the air. He made a huge announcement. I'll get to that in a little bit. As far as the episode itself, I thought this was a fantastic episode. I liked the flashbacks. Now, last we saw Rick in the previous episode, he had been impaled. He was thrown from his horse, and he was impaled on a long metal rod. And I saw that, and I saw the previews for this week, and I just thought to myself, are you kidding me? Are they going to kill Rick Grimes off because he got a fucking staph infection? Because a friggin' pole went through his abdomen? This can't possibly be how this guy is written off this show. And we pick up where it left off. He manages to free himself from being impaled on this pole, hop back up on the horse somehow. He's bleeding out, and he keeps passing out. And when he passes out, we get these flashback scenes They're not really flashbacks, I guess, but flashbacks to characters that have been killed off the show. But he's dreaming, he's hallucinating, he's drifting in and out of consciousness. And what was cool is we got to see some of the characters that have been killed off, including Shane, John Bernthal, who's gone on to do a whole bunch of different. I think he was the Punisher, I think. Shane was a main character on the show for the first, I guess, 2 seasons. Best friends with Rick. They were cops together. Shane sort of went to the dark side a little bit there. So we haven't seen Shane in a long time. It was cool to see the two of them interacting again. We got to see Herschel, Maggie's father, who had been killed off in a previous season. And that was kind of bittersweet, watching him here because, as I'm sure many of you, and some of you might not be, but many of you are aware, the actor who played Herschel on the show, Scott Wilson, he passed away less than a month ago, right around the time of New York Comic-Con. I remember being at Comic-Con, and it was right after it ended, I think, that week, that the news came down that he had passed away from leukemia. I didn't even know the guy was sick. And so that was kind of stunning to hear. And then you see him here. Obviously, they were able to get these scenes in time. And I didn't know that they were going to have scenes with him in them here on this episode. So you watch him on screen, and it's like, ugh, knowing what happened is just kind of eerie. But there was, a scene with him in it. Sasha, we saw her. We didn't get to see Carl. We didn't get to see Lori. Some of the other characters. Where's T-Dog? Where's T-Dog at? Come on, how come T-Dog doesn't get any love? He doesn't get any flashback scenes? I guess not. I enjoyed that, though. He was fighting. He was trying not to pass out and trying not to die, basically. And that's sort of the story of his character, right? He's always been portrayed as this fighter, the leader of the group. Anyway, it all builds to this big climactic scene, the bridge. The bridge has been part of the storyline here this season. They've built this bridge because, you've got to somehow get from one side to the other. Otherwise, you're going to get washed away by the river that is now flowing. And they keep talking about this damn bridge, and it's so important to Rick. We got to build the bridge. We got to literally building a bridge. And so, of course, now with his life hanging in the balance and a whole horde doesn't even begin to describe it, a whole army of walkers coming towards him, he looks and he sees the bridge. And Rick crosses the bridge, he gets to the other side, and he looks and he realizes that there's just too many. There's just too many walkers. Finally, all the other characters, of course, at that moment, they happen to show up down below. And they look up and they see Rick, and they see all the walkers coming towards him. And Rick is trying to wave them off by saying, look, there's just too many of them. You guys stay back. He sees sticks of dynamite sitting on the bridge because the bridge was still under construction. And he fires a shot at the dynamite. It causes this huge explosion. And you see Michonne gets all emotional. Daryl. See, I was doing fine until I saw Daryl and he started to get emotional. There's something about watching when Daryl cries on this show. It's very difficult not to follow suit. It's a rare thing to see him crying on this show. And so we see this big explosion, and they figure, based on their reactions, it's clear that they figured that Rick basically just committed suicide. He killed himself for the betterment of the group, though. So that didn't bother me if that was going to be his demise, because it kind of fit the character in a way, right? He was willing to sacrifice himself to save everybody else. It would have been a very Rick-like way to go out. And flash forward, of course, they have the other character, Jadis, or Anne, I guess, depending on what you want to call her. They've had this other storyline with this mysterious helicopter that's around. We don't really know what the hell the helicopter is. I don't think the helicopter is part of the comics. I think it's an original story they introduced into the show. It has not been explained what the helicopter is, who these people are that she's been in touch with on her walkie-talkie. But what's funny to me is she's standing there, and she sees the explosion and the smoke right in off in the distance. But the river here is flowing, and she sees all the bodies of the walkers, because when Rick blew up the bridge, we see all the walkers tumble into the water and they get washed away. And I'm looking at these walkers, by the way. They're set on fire. They're falling into the water. And I'm looking at them falling, and I'm like, this looks like all the viewers The Walking Dead has been losing over the last few years. So they fall off the bridge, and as she's looking at all these zombie bodies that are going down this raging river, of course, she looks over and sees that Rick, who was not blown up, who was not killed, has washed up on shore. He's injured, he's dying, he's bleeding out, but he's alive. And so anyway, Jadis is communicating with whoever is in the chopper and saying, look, I have someone for you. And long story short, we cut to a scene where Rick is being tended to in a helicopter, being taken God knows where. He is being taken to another camp, another community, somewhere else. He's hooked up to IV pole, or they had the thing in his nose, modern medical equipment. And so Rick Grimes, in fact, was not killed off here in this episode. The story going forward obviously is flashing ahead many years. We see Carol with long hair. We don't see Maggie. I did not see Maggie in the previews. I don't know what that means because I know the actress Lauren Cohan, who portrays Maggie on the show. I don't know if she's leaving. I know there was some negotiations going on. She may be leaving too. I'm not sure, but I did not notice her in the previews. So I think it's a reset. It comes off to me as being a reset, a badly needed reset for this show. They'll introduce new characters. We'll move the story along. The big thing was, and this is what I think is actually kind of cool. So the last scene of this episode is a bunch of what will be, I guess, the new characters that they're flashing forward to. And these people who we've never seen before are fighting off walkers somewhere. But the walkers are about to overwhelm them. They've circled them. These people are doomed. And all of a sudden, we see shots being fired. We don't know where it's coming from. This person, whoever it is picking off these walkers one by one. This person clears a path. The people run off into the woods, and they find the person who fired the shots and saved them. And who is it? It's a little girl. It's a little girl we've never seen before. And they say to her, "Who are you?" And she looks down on the ground and picks up her Stetson hat, puts it on her head, and says, "My name is Judith. Judith Grimes." And so now Judith is all grown, well, not all grown up, but she's at least 3 or 4 years older. And she's going to pick up the mantle. She's going to pick up, where basically Carl left off before he kicked the bucket. And she looked pretty badass, not for nothing. So all of a sudden, I'm very interested to see where they go with this. I think it's going to make the show better. Like I said, it was badly needed. The show is just sort of limping along in a lot of ways. It wasn't a bad show. It never really felt like there was a whole lot of new stuff going on. Negan is still locked up in a cell. We saw Maggie confront him. She was going to kill him, and then she kind of saw how pathetic he was and how he wanted to die. And so what do? Well, you don't give him what he wants. She sent him back into his cell. So Negan is still alive. He's still locked up. And he will, and I did see him in the previews, so obviously he'll still be around even with the flash forward. I thought the ending was really cool. I thought it was a very strong episode. Now, the big news came after the show went off the air, and they have that live Talking Dead show that comes on after. So they had Scott Gimple on, and he broke the news, which is now I see all over the place now. Obviously, this was embargoed, which is a PR term. And as soon as the episode ended, everybody went out with their stories. And everybody went out. I see Entertainment, Variety, and a bunch of other websites now have interviews that are already up with Gimple, talking about how they're going to expand the Walking Dead universe. And that includes 3 feature film length movies that will air on AMC Network. It won't air in a movie theater somewhere, but they will air on AMC. But they will be shot like real feature films. That will include Rick Grimes. So they're going to continue the Rick Grimes story. Andrew Lincoln will continue to portray Rick Grimes. They're going to begin filming the first of the 3 films sometime probably early next year. I think they're still writing the script for the first one. And it's going to basically continue his story from the point that he is rescued by this helicopter and brought to whatever new community he's going to. It will pick up from that point onward. And that has me very excited because Andrew Lincoln, I think, does a tremendous job as Rick Grimes. I could see where you don't want to be pigeonholed necessarily. Maybe you get tired, you want to go do something else. I thought that was what was going on here. Apparently not. Apparently this was going to be the end of him on the regular series because he lives in England. I still can't get over that he's an Englishman. And he's not the only one. Maggie is too. These people all have accents. You would never know it by watching them on the show. But he was tired of flying to the States. They would film the show apparently 9 months at a time. He'd have to come here to Atlanta in the summer. It's sweltering down there. He wanted to be closer to his family and not have to, go live in a sweatbox for 9 months. I get it. But he apparently still loves doing the show. He loves doing the character, and he's on board for 3 movies. So Rick Grimes is very much alive, and they're going to continue his story. They're going to expand the Walking Dead universe. He says that, let's explore other parts of the world possibly during the zombie apocalypse. So we may get I don't know if it'll be a spin-off series or what, showing, the zombie apocalypse maybe on other continents, maybe in China or, Asia, Antarctica, who knows, other parts of the world. And there will be, the other thing that has me excited, there will be a look back, and again, I don't know if this will be in movie form or a spin-off series. They are absolutely going to do something with some of the older characters who have been killed off, to give us a little bit more background into their story, where they came from, and that sort of thing. He didn't name any names. I would have to think, unless he's just busy with the other TV work he's doing, that I think Shane would be worthy of getting that treatment. I think somebody there's been so many characters killed off over the years, right? So take your pick. I don't think Glenn would necessarily be a very interesting character. I think Abraham would be an interesting character to look back at his backstory. Even somebody like Tyrese, right? There's been so many of them. And maybe T-Dog. Come on, got to show some love for T-Dog. So this all just came out of nowhere. I didn't expect any of this, and I think it's really cool. I actually half expected to be disappointed and let down when this thing was over, and it's just the opposite. Like I said, strong episode. Rick's not dead. He's coming back for 3 movies. They're going to expand the Walking Dead universe. It's going to be like the Marvel Comics universe is what they're doing here, basically. And again, they're milking it, obviously. They just want to make as much money off it as they can. But I think it's cool, and we'll get to learn a little bit more about some of these characters that perhaps were killed off sooner than they should have been. And depending on who they bring back, I think that might be the best news of the night, frankly. I'm down for a story about Shane or Abraham, personally. So anyway, that's kind of my quick overview of what the hell happened tonight on The Walking Dead. Rick is not dead. Rick is still very much alive. And now we'll have the show taken in a new direction that hopefully will add a little bit of excitement. I think that's been lost over the years. I get why people have abandoned the show. A lot of people have abandoned the show. The ratings reflect that. I've not given up on it, though. I just feel like I've invested so much time in these characters. And some of them are still left, like Daryl and Maggie. There's some of the longtime regular characters. I haven't been ready to give up on them just yet, although a lot of my favorite characters have been long since killed off. Actually, I think my favorite villain, of all the different villains they've had over the years, and Negan and all the others, I'm still a big fan of the Governor. And David Morrissey. I thought he did a tremendous job with that character. I was very disappointed when he got killed off. I am still a big Governor fan. Governor over Negan, as far as I'm concerned. But again, I'm not a comics guy, so if you read the comics, you might disagree with me on that. So yes, Rick Grimes is like a WWE superstar. Nobody ever retires in wrestling, and Rick Grimes is no different. So that's my Walking Dead overview. Maybe I'll do more of these in the future. We got 3 episodes left, and they're going to be interesting given that they're flashing forward so many years. So I don't know. If enough people want them, maybe I'll talk about those episodes too. But I know there's still some Walking Dead fans out there, so I wanted to just get this out tonight with that new episode in the books. If you missed it, we've got not 1 but 2 wrestling pay-per-view reviews up on this channel. Evolution, which was the all-women show from last Sunday, and then Crown Jewel from Saudi Arabia this past Friday. I know that video's over 100,000 views at this point. So if you want to hear those reviews, those are up right now. Hit the sub button if you have not already done so. Thank you for all of the support. And leave a comment down below if you did see the show tonight. Let me know what you think. Let me know where you think this is going, too, without giving away too much in terms of comic spoilers. But I'm curious to know what you guys thought if you saw the episode tonight. I'll be back real soon with more content here on the channel. Have yourselves a great week, and keep it locked in here for more videos to come. Take care, guys.